Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzales. We are joined by a special guest today, Mr. Chad Robichaux. Did I say that correctly?
You got it, yeah.
Okay, I'm not good with that accent, so I wanted to make sure.
Cajun accent.
Yes, exactly. Chad is a best-selling author and a public speaker, and you really, honestly, I feel like you just do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, MMA fighter.
Yeah. So I do everything but rest. So.
Yeah, exactly.
We do enough of that for you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for being on, Chad.
Yeah,
Glenn, what's the top story for you?
I have to start with the Paris fires, burning down of Notre Dame.
Okay, Stu.
It's tax day, and people should understand the truth about their taxes and how much they're paying.
They should know,
They should know that.
what's going on with that. Interesting concept still. And Chad.
We had 3 veterans take their lives inside of VA facilities last week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In 1 week.
In 1 week, yeah, we had 3. One right here in Austin. One of the guys shot himself right in a VA facility.
All right.
Week, yeah.
A lot to get into there. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor.
Relief Factor is, I hate saying this with a veteran sitting right here, and especially the news last week. Pain can be really debilitating. Pain can be something that pushes you over the edge, and you don't necessarily have to live that way. I've been taking Relief Factor now for a year and a half. Take it 3 times a day. It reduces your inflammation. I'm so surprised because I thought this was all swelling, but it's not. And you will feel a difference. You can take it for 3 weeks. They have the quick start. If it doesn't work for you, stop taking it. But 70% of the people who take it find relief. I have found massive relief. It's Relief Factor. The number is at the bottom of the screen, or you can just go to relieffactor.com.
All right, Glenn. Notre Dame is burning.
In a spectacular fashion. President Macron has just come out and said it looks like we may not be able to save it. Just watch the video here, just a little bit of this. That's the spire. This is their 9/11. Look at the spire fall. That's the spire of Notre Dame. Look at how hot that fire is. Look at the flames, how high those flames are.
Yeah, that is not close to going out at this point.
No. We don't know what caused it yet. We know that there was a mass renovation that was going on, but that is pretty remarkable. I mean, this is a world landmark, and probably next to the Eiffel Tower, the most iconic building in all of France. And more important than the Eiffel Tower, this is the site of the American Revolution, the French Revolution. This is the site of Victor Hugo. I mean, this is so wildly important to France as an image.
Also, like, really serious archives are held there. I mean, they're going to lose all sorts of art and archives that you're never going to be able to recreate.
I mean, just the rose stained glass window is irreplaceable. If this was arson, this is going to be bad. If this was arson of any foreign kind of any foreign entity, anybody with a grudge, I think if, and this is a huge if, it might have just been started by a cigarette, we don't know. But if this was started by Islamists, I don't think you'll find out about it. Because I think it would set the entire country on fire. They've had killings, they've had mass shootings, they've had people running people down in the streets. The tension is very high. You take away, this would be like us burning, our White House? I mean, what is iconic like this?
World Trade Centers?
Yeah, like the World Trade Center. This is their World Trade Center moment. And if this was done by terrorists, I think that they will keep it quiet because I just don't think Macron and France wants that internal fight. if this was done by somebody who is disgruntled with the government, et cetera, like the Yellow Vests, they did say this weekend that the police can put bullets in their guns and they can shoot to kill the Yellow Vests. They said that this weekend. So maybe it's that, I don't know, but this is a really big deal. The world has lost a major piece of history today.
Chad, you want to weigh in on this?
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, if it is an Islamic thing, I mean, Islam jihadists have had a history of trying to erase any history besides Islam, and if this is, I mean, like you said, the tensions are so high there, and you put that. I mean, I don't think they want to deal with the consequences of bringing that up and bringing that to head. As this Islamic attack.
I think it could be a slaughter in the streets if that's what it was. It would not be good.
I mean, I've never been, so I don't know, but I would think that, you said maybe it could be a cigarette. I mean, you would think that obviously they can't smoke there.
I will tell you, I mean, I heard from you, Chad, when we first sat down, that the fire department didn't arrive for 2 hours?
Yeah, I just heard that right before I walked in, that there was a delayed response to the fire department for like 2 hours. And so
how did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how a cigarette could. I mean, you should be able to put that out. That is one hot fire. But if it burned uncontrolled for 2 hours, that's what it would look like. It's kind of, the wood's a little dry.
And if anybody's been to France, I mean, the French are very proud people, especially their history of their. I mean, they're very proud, and this is going to whoever caused it,
devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was construction workers, it won't cause riots in the streets, but even if it was construction workers, boy, I wouldn't want to be a part of that construction company.
And not just the building, right? You said earlier, the archives, the art that's in there, there's a lot of things that's going to be lost in this fire.
I think about all these things kind of coming together. I mean, you already have an Islamic extremism problem in France, whether this has anything to do with them or not. You have the Yellow Vest situation, which is, protesters in the country that have created lots of havoc. You have financial instability and all sorts of things. This is what you've been talking about forever. Whether this is an attack or not, the issue is, I mean, there's still argument about the Reichstag fire, whether that was set by the Germans or not. I mean,
no, this will be used.
Yeah, this will be used, and combine it with the world we live in, which is, conspiracy theories and fake news and people spreading things fast. People will attempt to use this, no matter what the truth is, they will attempt to use it for their own purposes. And, as you've mentioned a million times, Glenn, when you get all of this kindling around one area, and this is this is a fire reference, but not referencing this fire, when you're talking about the spark can be something like this, even if it's not necessarily an attack, that could set off a much larger problem.
This is
and can cascade out of control.
This is a very important building. Yeah. It's just, I mean, think of people who feel already that they're losing what it means to be French, that they're losing their heritage, they're losing their country, they're losing France. Think about the devastating loss that is. Imagine the way we feel about our country. Imagine Mount Vernon burns to the ground. I mean, this is much bigger than Mount Vernon.
The White Cathedral?
I know. This is hundreds and hundreds of years old. It would, Independence Hall, maybe. I can't think of anything. I think it'd have to go to the White House and the Capitol to be that big.
Yeah. I want to move on to something way happier, which is it's tax day and we all owe a bunch of money to the government. Yay!
We do, and in fact, we've done it for the entire year. And that's one of the big things I want to focus on here is that people just do not understand in general. I think this audience has a good grasp of it, but generally speaking, people don't understand that their taxes being withheld by the government is not a birthday present from the government. Your tax refund is not a celebration of some new holiday. It is the government taking from you. They're taking your money and holding it interest-free for a year when they decide to finally give it back to you. It's not good. It's not a bonus. It's not a hug and a kiss from the government. It's actually, it's closer to theft is what it is. Because I can tell you this, because I may be a type of person who occasionally files for an extension every year. And I can tell you this, they don't let me keep any of their money without interest. They make sure that I'm paying interest every single time and penalties and all these other things if I don't get that stuff paid on time. So this is pretty interesting though, because we had this big tax cut that happened in 2017. And big is maybe an overstatement. It was an okay tax cut. I'm glad. I like lower taxes.
Probably the biggest one we may see in the rest of our lifetime.
It's possible.
Mine.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's depressing.
The corporate income tax cut was pretty good. I'll say that. So they cut taxes, and for almost everybody. I mean, almost everybody saw a tax decrease. But the left really went on this kind of marketing campaign to make sure that you didn't know it. And we saw this from Matthew Iglesias last week, giving praise to the left and saying, hey, what a great job we did on telling everybody that they didn't get a tax cut when they actually did.
And it's amazing he came out on Twitter and said that in front of everybody. They're not afraid
Not even
anymore.
hiding it.
Not afraid. Well, the New York Times is, in case you thought that was just a right-wing talking point, here's the New York Times talking about it as well. To a large degree, the gap between perception and reality on the tax cut appears to flow from a sustained and misleading effort by liberal opponents of the law to brand it as a broad middle-class tax increase. Jeez. Incredible. They say after a law went into effect, Democrats played down the estimates. These are estimates that were lower than initially shown, and instead highlighted projections that most Americans' taxes are set to increase in 2026 after the individual tax cuts in the law are scheduled to expire. Stop for a moment and consider how disingenuous of a talking point that is. They're saying when the law runs out, your taxes are going to go up back to what they were before, and we're going to count that as a tax increase. I mean, that is incredible. It will be a tax increase in 2026. Yeah.
Ends justify the means.
Ends justify the means. They have a great quote in there. This is from the H&R Block Tax Institute. This is Nathan Rigney. He says, most people didn't recognize the increase in take-home pay, or at least didn't attribute it to the tax cut. Mm-hmm. It's little consolation to discover that you received a couple $1,000s during the year, but you already spent it. And this comes back to a fundamental problem, and I think a truth here when it comes to tax policy and the way conservatives handle it. We always talk about, kind of as a talking point, Ronald Reagan's point, that at the end of the year, if everyone had to send in a check, the tax situation would change immediately. And instead of implementing that as a policy or making that more of a reality, or maybe at the end of every, just like people pay rent, at the end of the month, they pay a tax check to the government, that would make them much more invested in what actually happened with the money and also how much they were giving. And we kind of just toss that out as a talking point, and it's a good talking point. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it's time to make it reality.
I think it's one reason why businesses are so hyper-focused on taxes, because I have to pay quarterly.
I do too. That's exactly where I was going to go when I first started my business. I think it was 2012, and I started paying those quarterly taxes. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of money that I'm paying every quarter.
And that's why. And I think this president might be a guy who would pull that off. I mean, one of the topic I wanted to lead with until the fires today was Donald Trump's suggestion of taking and sending all of the illegals into sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
And I think if he did that on a mass scale, if they just trickle in, nothing. But if you fill 141s with people,
buses and stuff,
and giant buses, and you just fly them in or bust them in, and he's there going, hey, by the way, just wanted to thank San Francisco for being one of the greatest cities in the world. Sanctuary city, not going to harm them. It's going to make jobs easier to find, and it's also going to make crime go down, the crime rate go down. Here they are, open the buses.
He won Cher over. Cher jumped on the Republican side.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. We actually have. If you go to the tweet from Cher. I tweeted this out. I didn't realize she was such a Make America Great Again person, but
It's the hat.
I mean, listen to this. How disconnected from reality do you have to be?
This is talking point. This is Trump's talking points, right?
I know. This is all of it. We've been saying this for 30 years. I understand helping struggling immigrants, but my city, Los Angeles, isn't taking care of its own. What about the 50,000 plus citizens who live on the streets, people who live below the poverty line and hungry? If my state can't take care of its own, many are vets, how can it take care of more? Cher, this is what we're saying, and it's not just your state. It's all of them.
Their country, welcome to the team, Cher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so bizarre to me that they're taking the stance. You heard Cory Booker come out and say, it's going to make people less safe.
Yeah.
Trump wants to make us less safe. Like, what are you talking about? Are you admitting that it may not be a safe strategy to just allow random strangers across the border into our towns?
If you listen to his whole clip, it is absolutely amazing because he says, You should fear, basically, you should fear the people who use fear to make you afraid. Well, wait, that's not Donald Trump, that's you. You're saying be afraid of Donald Trump because he makes you afraid. Well, I should say be afraid of Cory Booker because he's using Donald Trump who's making us afraid. It's crazy.
Also would just like to point out before we go to break that, these people are basically getting they get a free chauffeured ride to a place where they can live. I still have to pay $30 to get in an Uber and travel 6 miles across town. Something's wrong with the world. Back in a minute.
I would gladly pay for their Uber. I would raise money to someone.
Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com.
So realestateagentsitrust.com is a company that I started 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And it came from frustration at first, and then I started doing work with these real estate agents, and they are from all over the country, and the Wall Street Journal every year says, they name the 500 best real estate agents. And some of these real estate agents sell more homes and sell more property than all the other real estate agents in the area combined. I mean, it's crazy. The good ones are really good. And so doing work with them, I just kind of pick their brain because I'm always the guy who's like, I don't know, anybody got a brother that sells real estate? It is the worst thing you can possibly do. So found other secrets, started connecting with these guys and said, hey, can I just refer some people to you? So we started doing that, and then we're like, we should do this for everybody. And so that's what we do. We refer realestateagentsitrust.com. You go there, you're looking for a real estate agent to sell or buy your house. These are the people who know how to get it done. These are the people you can trust. They're all fans of the show. A lot of them know me personally, and they'll help you sell your house.
All right. Chad, you said 3 veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Just last week.
Just last week, in a 5-day window. Yeah, 2 in Georgia, 1 in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. How many? The number's not 21. How many is it?
We will really know because the number actually last VA report says 20. However, that's about 50% of the population reporting. So we really don't know what the number is. Obviously 1 too many, but it's definitely more than 20. And then if you look at the active duty rate, it used to be 1 a day, which is more measurable active duty. That number has quadrupled. Last year, 2018, was the most suicides ever on active duty for the United States Marine Corps. Special Operations Command tripled their number in 1 year. So I mean, it's on the the active duty side, it's on a rapid increase. There's not the right solutions aren't being brought to the table. The VA. Why did these guys kill themselves in a VA facility? A guy in Austin, Texas, on Thursday walked out of his counselor's office, walked into the waiting room, said, "Well, I guess I'll just kill myself," and pulled the pistol out and shot himself in the chest.
Any idea why?
Well, he made a statement to his girlfriend that he was going to. I'm not as certain it was him. It was one of the 3 that last week made a statement to their girlfriend that they were going to make a statement to the VA in order, basically falling on the sword for other veterans. So they would take it serious. They would hear this incident and
what are we not doing?
Well, 2008, when the Obama administration took over, the VA had what was called the Office of Faith-Based and Community Alternative Programs, which were not just faith-based, but other programs outside of clinical. Those were defunded, and everything at that point, from 2008 till now, has been prescription medications.
Oh my gosh.
Clinical. So this is the only solution being presented is prescription medications. Outside of the active duty, outside of the military, outside of VA, they have organizations like Mighty Oaks, which we've tried to fill that gap to bring in other solutions that we know work.
You do great work, just great work.
We're bringing a solution.
How many people are you up to now? How many?
We're 2,600 graduates, but now we're on a rate of about 1,000 a year. Wow. And on the resiliency side, we've just spoke to about 150,000 active duty troops. I just got back from Germany speaking Marine Forces Europe and Africa. Last weekend I was at Marine Corps Boot Camp. Now I get to speak to every recruit at Marine Corps Boot Camp. Will hear me speak on resiliency and spiritual resiliency. And then on the other side, the next day I'm at the General's Quarters speaking to all the commanders of boot camp. So we got the Marine Corps has been amazing. General Neller, who's the commandant, and Sergeant Major Green, they've been incredible to open the doors to us to allow us to bring this solution to the table.
Have you talked to Donald Trump yet about this?
In the campaign, if you remember in the campaign, I got to ask him what he would do if he became president. Would he allow faith-based programs to be a solution? And he said yes, and of course the media spun it sideways, and if you remember that incident when I asked him that, but since I haven't spoken to him again since, and I would love to follow up, I would love to sit down with the president and follow up with him on that question. He did, give his word to me and all the other veterans in that room that day that he would bring this to the table. And I definitely recognize he's, faces a lot of opposition.
So do you think that's really what it is, that we've dropped faith? I mean, because as an alcoholic, to me, that makes sense.
Sure.
If you're pushing drugs over AA and any kind of spiritual reconnection, it's just not going to work.
Right.
But is that, do you think
Is
that the driving force of this?
I think so. You look at, we just got done with a 3-year doctoral study. We're independent of us. Someone studied people from Mighty Oaks, and I could go through the numbers and bore you with them, but the bottom line is we outperform clinical trials with our success rate. This is a 3-year independent study that we didn't touch from some of our participants that opted in to participate in the study. And it's going to be published soon, but we outperform clinical trials with our success rates. In fact, almost 49% of the people in that test group did not even have PTSD after going through a program like Mighty Oaks. And so we've had just tremendous success. And we're not the only ones. I mean, look at, you talked about AA, prison programs. I know a program in California. The recidivism rate in prisons, 77% in California. They have a faith-based program called TUMI, the Urban Ministry Institute. Their graduates have a 4% recidivism rate. I mean, faith programs work for people that are struggling in life and trauma. And they're proven time and time again. Oftentimes, though, they're not used until the last resort and for preventativeness. And
you're understandably focused on the increase of solutions, and that's obviously very important. Is it also, though, an increase in problem? Is there why is it more on that side as well, where people are going to this more often?
I would agree with that for sure. I mean, we've been at war for 20 years. We have 23 million veterans in America, and the VA has always been able to treat our veterans, but now after 20 years of war, they're definitely being inundated with, and they don't have the options or solutions. So the only thing they have to do is present, pills, and if that's all.
I have to tell you, this is as bad as World War I was. I mean, World War I, guys came back. We had never seen warfare like that. These guys were being pulled off of farms, and then they were thrown in where, World War I is so crazy, it almost completely annihilated the horse from the European continent, okay? People were bringing their own horses into combat, and they were being destroyed by tanks were seen for the first time, and machine guns, and so it was so disturbing. They came home, and the suicide rate was very high because they didn't know what to do. But this is before AA, this is before they had any of those options. For us to be sitting here and be repeating what happened to us in World War I and not come back to faith-based solutions when nothing else is working is obscene.
I mean, the president just signed this executive order, which meant more funding, but Secretary Wilkie, who's the secretary of the VA, they basically are doubling down on the same thing they've been doing. And more outreach, same processes, but no new solutions to the table. And I'm not suggesting the VA stand up a faith-based wing, but there's already organizations out there doing it. If they could partner, not on an individual basis, like because we get references from the VA all the time, but it's not systemic across the VA.
Yeah.
If they could partner with the organizations that are already doing the work and having the success, I believe that we can make a dent in this thing and actually really have an impact. And you talk about like World War I and how different it is. Right now, we've never seen an IED threat like we have. My son's in Afghanistan. He just got there 2 days ago. The unit he's replacing is those 3 Marines that were killed last week, and that's the guys he's replacing.
When we have a war where a father serves in a war and then the son goes, that war's gone on too long.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, back in a minute.
Yeah, those guys were in an MRAP. Like, people aren't supposed to die in an MRAP.
Chad, we've got about 30 seconds here, but I want to make sure that everyone watching knows where they can find out more information about what you're doing with Mighty Oaks.
Yeah, MightyOaksPrograms.org. If you are a veteran or a spouse or active duty, whatever your service is, you can go there. Our program's totally free. We even cover travel. So MightyOaksPrograms.org. And also, if you want to support this cause, we've never had a veteran have to pay. You can support as well there.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for all the
Absolutely.
good work you're doing.
Thank you guys for having me on.
We will see you guys in overtime.